Katie, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Anna.
We've been planning this for quite some time now, haven't we? And we're finally getting to do it now because on the back of Harvey and Me, the documentary, that was amazing. Still getting feedback, are you?
I am actually. Do you know, I might put another plug out for it because it's still, when I put the telly on, I see me and Harvey's face come up and I'm like, oh yeah, that seems like ages ago. But people should watch it, even if they don't know me or Harvey. It's still an inspiring documentary to watch.
Most definitely. And then obviously because of the feedback about you, going through the transition period with Harvey, parents, so many contacted because they didn't realise they had to plan so far in advance, like yourself.
Exactly.
We had to do two workshops where over 200 people attended, like mums and dads and carers, talking about and the questions that they had. And we did one last week where my husband was chatting to them, talking about legal side of it, and there was so many questions. So on the back of Harvey and Me, we've helped so many other families.
Well,
yeah,
he's gone
that's
up
amazing.
he's actually gone up to that college today to stay overnight.
Oh, was he?
So,
oh,
the one
wow.
in Cheltenham.
Our guest today, I'm really excited, is Siena. And Siena, I've known her for about 4 years now. She's one of my charity ambassadors. So first of all, she was one of the winners at the Autism Hero Awards, which is another one of our awards that we do every year. And I met her and I thought, wow, what an amazing young woman. And she has got a diagnosis of autism, dyspraxia, ADHD, and dyslexia, and she uses her learning differences to help her. Just listen to her story and what she's achieved. I'm so proud of this young woman. Talk to Katie, let her know your story because it's just amazing.
As Anna said, I'm autistic, dyslexic, dyspraxic, and I also have ADHD. I had a very difficult school experience with a lot of teachers misunderstanding me, and it meant that I had to go to 11 schools. I was also bullied a lot.
11 schools? Wow.
Yeah, there was 1 year where I went to 3 schools. Year 7 I went to 3 schools in 1 year. Yeah, I was always like a very well-behaved kid, very quiet. That's something that teachers would say. They would say, she doesn't participate in class, she goes and she hides in the library. And so I never really got in trouble, but it was just students being awful to me. I went to a school where I was beaten with hockey sticks and lacrosse sticks and stuffed in a locker. I had to file, a disability hate crime at one school because of the way I was treated. And so when you're in that kind of environment, you have to leave. I mean, there's no kind of negotiating with people and trying to, like, if you're being assaulted in that way, you need to feel safe. And so there are some schools where I lasted like 5 weeks before I had to go.
Whoa.
So you were at sixth form college, and I remember you telling me the story. So can you share about what happened when you were at sixth form?
I went to this school that was a specialist math and physics school, which for me was my dream because that's something I'm really passionate about. And so you could only take math for the math and physics A levels. And I thought that kind of because of that, a lot of autistic people would be there. Because it was a selective school and just the fact that it's all based in STEM, and I went and there were a lot of autistic individuals there, but the school didn't make any adjustments.
Right.
The school, it was actually the most autism unfriendly school I've ever been at.
Really?
It was they had these white walls and then neon yellow was the color, like the school color, and so we had neon yellow folders and they had these neon yellow kind of lockers and everything. And as someone who has a sensory processing disorder, that was so overwhelming. When it's through the laptop, it's fine, but when the light hits like neon yellow reflective surfaces, it causes me physical pain. And so at times I would have panic attacks, and at one point I had a panic attack so bad that I had to be hospitalized. Because I just was, my mental health just went. I mean, it was awful, and it was difficult because, when you're in year 7, you can leave a school. When you're in sixth form and you've started A levels and you're going to be applying to university soon, you can't just pick up and leave because it's going to disrupt everything. And so I stayed there a lot longer than I should have, and I was having issues with everything. I had one teacher who told me that she wasn't going to allow me to take an economics exam you could do AS exams there, and I was taking economics AS, and she told me that she didn't think I was going to do well.
And did you?
She would. I ended up getting the highest grade you can get on an AS. Which
I love that.
But I had to take it as an outside centre because the school wouldn't let me take it because she had like downgraded me. She was giving me C's and D's when I was getting A's the whole time.
No
I hope you got the certificate and shoved it up her nose.
What was the first thing that they told you had dyspraxia?
The first thing, was dyspraxia that I was diagnosed with. What happened with me was I was actually born with hip dysplasia. It was unrelated, but I had to have surgery when I was younger and I was in a wheelchair for a bit. And so when I came out of the wheelchair at like 4 or 5 years old, I was incredibly clumsy because of my dyspraxia. But my mom thought that that was because I had just been in a wheelchair for a long time.
Right.
And so then when I was 8, she was like, okay, you've been out of this wheelchair for like 4 years now and you're still, and you can't catch a ball, which has nothing to do with your legs, like something's kind of up here. And my problem was that I was very tall as a kid. And so teachers would put me in the top set in sport. And they would say, oh, you have to be goal defense in netball, which I was awful at. And it would highlight it when I'm against, all the top players at my school.
And what about the ADHD? Now, I would say there's so many parents out there who don't realise if they've got ADHD or they're just naughty kids. Don't you think this is a tricky one, Anna? Because
definitely, yeah.
How would you describe with you that you had ADHD?
Yeah, I mean, I have inattentive ADHD, and so I'm very much, I'll daydream, I'll stare out the window. My thing with my ADHD is I got diagnosed when I was 15, which was a shock because I'd been doing my neurodiversity advocacy since I was 13. Wow. And I had talked about ADHD and I'd written articles about ADHD, but I'd written it from the perspective of, I don't have this. This is what I've heard from other people. I don't have lived experience. And then getting diagnosed with it, what happened for me was I had all these ADHD symptoms that I thought were autism. It was stuff like I could sit down and hyper-focus. I could focus for 6 hours straight. And I thought, oh, this is my autism. This is me being really passionate about what I'm doing. This is me kind of having that, that focus sometimes comes with autism. And then there were other things like I would be in school and I couldn't pay attention. And I thought, oh, it's because there's something sensory unfriendly. The lights are distracting me. Something's going on. I would stare out a window and I would think, oh, that's my sensory processing disorder But then I ended up taking 4 GCSEs early. And then I took 6 GCSEs at the time when I was meant to take them. And those 6 were all humanities based and I couldn't focus.
Do you know, I'm embarrassed sitting here. You're so brainy. I would never play Trivial Pursuit.
You haven't even heard the half of it.
Oh my gosh. So brainy.
I was just going to say, Siena's created lots of resources and started at an early age. So do you want to talk a little bit about those? Because people watching might be interested and they might want to tap into some of the resources that you've created.
Yeah, so I started my first website, Quantum Leap Mentoring, when I was 13, and that was a website designed to support and mentor children with learning differences and autism. A lot of the resources I found were directed at parents or directed at teachers, and I wanted something that children in school could go to and find, specific advice designed for them.
I think young people would relate more to someone their age talking about it necessary than an adult who hasn't got it. Like the understanding what I think you're doing is great because people would listen more. I think because you've been there, you've done it, and you're younger as well. It's just a weird thing. I think kids and young children would listen to you more than probably an adult.
And she's also created a best-selling book as well.
No way!
Spectrum Girls Survival Guide.
So I got the Spectrum Girls Survival Guide, and then this came out in February.
Whoa!
The Spectrum Girls Survival Toolkit, the workbook for autistic girls.
Oh, I have to get one of them. I'd get Princess to read that. Because I think even though their brothers like it, it's still fascinating to learn more why he does the things he does. So in your book, what's your book about exactly? Tell us a bit about your book. Is it a story or is it about autism, what you've gone through? What is it?
Yeah, so my first book, The Spectrum Girl Survival Guide, it gives the advice that I wish that I had had when I was growing up. Just stuff like how to handle communication and dating and social life and bullying. I wrote it when I was 16, and so I wrote it kind of from the perspective of someone who had gone through the school experience and who had experienced like many of the common things that, autistic girls go through, like bullying and feeling ostracized and feeling other. And so the book is a combination of me kind of sharing a few things that I've been through, and also just giving advice and what I learned from those experiences.
What's your favourite thing to do? What are your hobbies? Because to me it sounds like you just like to learn things all the time. And what would you say your hobbies are? What do you do?
I'm a very nerdy individual. I'm very into my math and my physics, and that's because of my autism. My autism makes me very logical, which really helps me with those areas. And so I'm actually going to be going to Stanford University in August. I want to get a degree in mechanical engineering. So.
Just all these words are so massive to it. I wouldn't even know where to start.
That's what our charity's about. It's about creating opportunities for people, and that's what that's what we need to do more of, especially in employment as well. What do you think about employment, Siena, about companies now recognising autism more, hopefully making more reasonable adjustments? What do you think?
I mean, it's a step in the right direction. I do hear a lot of stories of people who will hire a team of autistic individuals, because they're autistic, through that initiative program, and then not give them any reasonable adjustments. And I think that's, if I got an opportunity and they were like, oh yeah, we want you because you're autistic, I'd assume like, okay, well then you're going to support me for it. Like then we're going to have an open conversation. You're going to give me the reasonable adjustments I need. If you want my expertise, then that's something you're going to have to do. But a lot of companies don't do that, and I think that's very, exploitative and damaging.
I want to give a shout out to where my son works, Patrick, at Pinewood Studios. They've been amazing with him. He's been there for 3 years now. They're on furlough at the moment, but they're having Teams meetings with him. They give him 20 minutes to have a walk around if he feels that he's a little bit overwhelmed or when he needs to. And I just want to give a shout out. They are a company that's definitely making reasonable adjustments and giving an opportunity to my son. So there needs to be more companies out there like that.
Yeah, definitely. And patience. Just have
to.
It makes you realise, especially being in lockdown, that you can't rush and do things. I think it's brought back that you have to just be patient and just learn to adjust, because I think everyone just lives life so fast that I think this has been a good lesson for people to learn. Just to sit back, assess things, and then do it.
So we've got Autism Awareness Week coming up, so hence why we're doing this as well. So are you doing anything for Autism Awareness Week, Siena?
Yeah, so I'm going to be giving a talk with the UN for Autism Awareness Week that I'm really looking forward to. But then also, I do a lot of work in promoting, this positive message around neurodiversity in general and autism as well. I think that there are strengths that a lot of people don't recognise that need to be talked about more.
I think it's brilliant, absolute brilliant what you're doing. I would take you anywhere to do a speech, because it's just so refreshing and so intelligent. You just wipe the floor with everyone. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. I bet your mum and dad are so proud of you. Do you still have trigger points? Do you have anything where you're like overwhelmed, where you have to get out the room and just relax and calm yourself? Or do you recognise any of that still? What, like, if you do, what are your sort of trigger points, if you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is noise. I'm hypersensitive with my sensory processing disorder, and so for me, like, noise is a lot louder, and so slamming doors, people shouting, anything like that, I can get really overwhelmed by. I mean, there are times when, like, I've had panic attacks on the tube, and that's the worst thing ever because you're locked in. And so there's no kind of running away and escaping it. And then, of course, it's like, oh, we're stuck at a red signal, and you're just having a panic attack on the tube.
Get me out of here.
Yeah.
So, because Harvey's is slamming doors. Because Harvey can't describe to me the feeling. What feeling goes through you when you just hear the slamming doors?
I don't know. I remember I watched this show, and there's a bomb that went off. and the person was kind of like really dazed afterwards, and they were kind of like getting up and it just looked like they were in absolute shock because it kind of came out of nowhere. And that's something that I kind of get a bit, where like something will slam and then my ears start kind of ringing, and it's just this kind of like, especially with surprise noises, it's just this shock to the system where you're like, oh my god, what is that? And there's this moment of kind of fear as well, because you know that you don't like those sounds, and so now you're wondering, okay, is that going to happen again, or how do I prepare myself for that? I mean, if I know going into a situation that there's going to be a loud noise, I find that I don't have the same anxiety as I do when it's a surprise.
That's so interesting, because you've described, because that is interesting, because I know that if I'm going to go in a restaurant with Harvey, I might say to him, right, there might be doors slamming, so I prepare him. But it's interesting how you say it's that sudden noise with the ears, because it's easier, because you've explained it how I imagine it to be for Harvey. So it's mad, isn't it? It's so good that you can explain all these things.
If you had to give some tips to a young woman just been diagnosed with autism, what tips would you give her to help her get on in education or whatever stage she might be at? Because obviously a lot of women do mask their autism, would you say?
I mean, it's like masking is very common. It's just the way that women are socialised. I mean, I was told from a very early age, oh, well, you need to smile. And so all of a sudden I started having like facial expressions because I knew that in order to conform and be like everyone else, that was something I had to do, and there was pressure on me to do that. I would definitely say that a big part of, when you mask, there's this feeling of isolation that comes with it because you're having to learn behaviour that everyone else, it just happens naturally. And you start kind of wondering, okay, why am I so different? And then when you're trying really hard to be in social situations, it just becomes clearer. I mean, I've kind of developed, my own kind of social circle where I just have autistic friends who understand me, and I don't try to kind of fit in with neurotypicals who want to do different things, who want to go on the tube and want to go walk in the park and be social. But when I was doing that, I really felt different. I really felt like, okay, for me, I'm getting distressed by everything around me, but everyone else is having a really fun time. And it can feel very isolating when you feel like you're the only person going through these difficulties. And so I would definitely say try to find people who are like you, people who are going through what you're going through. The first time that I met, an autistic girl who's now my friend, and we were able to just talk about everything we were going through. It was just a really...
Do you find...
It was an amazing feeling.
Do you find if people know that you've got autism and ADHD, they treat you different? I get two types. I get people who, I call them the conspiracy theorists, who tell me like, no, you can't be autistic because you're a girl. You can't be autistic because you make eye contact. Sometimes I'll give a speech and I'll say that I'm autistic, and then afterwards I'll come off the stage and people will say, oh, you can't be autistic because you were eloquent or you did this or that.
Or you're too articulate.
Yeah. You're too articulate. Yeah, whatever. Oh, you can't have ADHD, you're so calm. You sat for 20 minutes in this panel. It's like, well, I have ADD. And so those people, they don't really, they treat me like I'm neurotypical. They're very dismissive of me.
Yeah.
Because they think that I'm like pretending. But I find that people who understand autism, people who are part of the community, in general can be a lot more understanding and sympathetic. And so when I feel like, maybe there's someone who is going to help me with those adjustments, they're going to help me through a situation, I definitely make it clear that I am autistic.
Just amazing, and an achievement for you. If you was my daughter, I'd be so proud.
I'm just proud to see how she's flourished as well, since I've known her 4 years ago, and all the awards she's won, and she's been doing the Neurodiversity Celebration week. I think, is it something like 690,000 students you've got participating in neurodiversity? It's probably gone up since I last spoke to you.
It's 875,000.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And what do you do? Do you just talk on here with all these people listening, or what do you do for that?
So Neurodiversity Celebration Week, it's a week run in schools where they focus on the positives of neurodiversity instead of the negatives. And so it's empowering the neurodiverse community and also kind of educating teachers as well about how to support their students. And so I have a website with resources and activity packs and lesson plans for how to celebrate the week.
Do you know your teachers from the past or people that were bullying you? Have you ever crossed paths with them or seen them and they know the achievement that you've got to now?
I went to this school where they were awful to me. At that point, I got diagnosed with autism when I was 12, and so they knew that I was autistic. I had that diagnosis. I wasn't just like, oh, the different kid.
Yeah.
And they were very dismissive. They told me that I didn't belong in mainstream education. They refused to give me reasonable adjustments. And then they signed up for Neurodiversity Celebration Week.
No way.
And so I was just like going through my emails, and it was like this school popped up, and I was kind of shocked.
And did they know it was you doing it?
I think they did. It was a very confusing thing because I'm like, why are you trying to celebrate neurodiversity? Like the whole time you tore me down for being neurodiverse, and so now you're trying to flip the narrative in your own way.
Well, at least it's like they've come to you then, almost like cap in hand. How far have you got with your petition?
Track a troll, it's called. So you have to have identification if you open an account on any social media platform. So if you are trolled or you are the troll, you can be tracked. Because I think there's so much suicide has got higher. There's lots of young people who experience mental health problems during stuff because of social media. I mean, it can happen to anyone, but do you not agree that you should be able to track these people? If you're going to open an account and just abuse people, you should be able to be found instead of being shut down to reopen another account.
No, definitely. I mean, if you were to say that kind of stuff to someone on the street, that would be like a hate crime and you get arrested for it.
Exactly.
But if you do it online, it's like, oh, it's fine, we can't find them.
Just my last petition finally is, obviously we've spoken, Katie, about our worries about when we're dead and gone, who's going to look after our sons.
Yeah.
I know. And I've got a petition going called Who is Going to Look After My Sons? It's on change.org, and I'd really appreciate if people could sign it. I'll probably have the link at the bottom of the YouTube hit on this particular one, but it's just like there's really nothing much in place at all. You need to get your affairs in order. There's a fantastic website, MenCap, where if you need to make a will, there's lots of information on there, but you really need to prepare because you just don't want your son or your daughter put in some, not being horrible, but in some awful place that we've read about you and Katie and I, that just fills us with fear. So if you could sign the petition, I'd really appreciate it, because apparently only 1 in 4 local authorities know about unpaid carers looking after their disabled sons or daughters at home. So so if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, and thank you, Siena, for joining us.
Yes, you've been brilliant.
And we're also going to be sharing links as well for performing arts. So we've got a few that we're going to be sharing who are our singers. So please check out the links as well at the bottom of this YouTube link, just to showcase our autistic talented individuals.